Shambhala, derived from the Sanskrit word meaning place of peace or place of silence, is believed to be a concealed kingdom located in the Himalayan region. According to legend, it is a utopian realm governed by a benevolent and wise ruler, inhabited by enlightened individuals who strive to bring about world peace, spiritual awakening, and the liberation of all beings. The concept of Shambhala has influenced works of literature, such as James Hilton's 1933 novel Lost Horizon, which introduced the idea of Shangri-La, a hidden paradise nestled in a Tibetan valley. In the 10th century Kalachakra Tantra text, it is narrated that King Manjusri, born in 159 BC, sought to end the worship of the sun. He banished 20,000 individuals from his kingdom for refusing to comply. Although he later reconsidered and invited them back, a faction chose to establish the city of Shambhala instead. The text also prophesied that the future Buddha Maitreya would become the 25th king of Shambhala, leading the battle against dark forces and ushering in a global golden age. The text even provides a specific timeline for this final battle, set around 2424 or 2425 AD, approximately 400 years from now. In more recent times, Shambhala gained prominence through the writings of Helena Blavatsky, co-founder of the Theosophical Society, in the late 19th century. Blavatsky mentioned her communication with a group called the Great White Brotherhood from the Himalayas, an organization consisting of highly advanced and enlightened beings working behind the scenes for the benefit of humanity. While some believe Shambhala is a spiritual realm imperceptible to physical eyes, a fortunate few have claimed to have physically visited the place. Visitors to Shambhala commonly describe encountering enlightened masters, witnessing demonstrations of supernatural abilities, and encountering individuals who have lived for hundreds of years. In this video, the story of Jon Peniel is shared, who authored the book, The Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis. The book recounts Peniel's journey to Tibet, where he was initiated into a monastic order which for all intents and purposes is the legendary Shambhala, even though they call their order, the Children of the Law of One. They claim their lineage traces back to the times of Atlantis and have preserved historical records spanning from the earliest days on Earth to the present time. I will firstly cover his story of reaching Shambhala and the specific location of Shambhala. However, since I use the past tense, was, in reference to Shambhala, it implies that something happened to it, and further details about this event will be shared later. Then, I will delve into their main teachings within Shambhala. Finally, the history they reveal will be particularly intriguing, including discussions about the origins of humanity, events in Atlantis, where the survivors went after its sinking, as well as explanations concerning the Great Pyramid, Ark of the Covenant, and more. Let's begin Jon Peniel's story. Jon displayed extraordinary intelligence from a young age, but his heightened sensitivity made everyday reality painful. Disappointed by his birth religion, which caused a loss of faith in the existence of God, he explored various spiritual books and philosophies but found none of them fulfilling. Despite his evident intelligence, he faced difficulties in high school and ultimately dropped out for various reasons. After a dispute with his mother, he was compelled to move out and face the challenges of the real world. Amidst these struggles, at the age of 17, he reached a point of despair where he believed there was no hope left and contemplated ending his life. However, just before taking that step, while channel surfing on his TV, he came across an image on the U channel setting. This was highly unusual since there were no UHF stations, and therefore, there should not have been a broadcast on that channel. The show he stumbled upon was presented in an interview format, focusing on spirituality, God, the universe, and ancient history. The man speaking in the show was dressed in a white robe and an ancient headdress recognizable to Jon as that of the Essenes and the Great White Brotherhood. I discussed the Essenes briefly in a previous video on Montseeker. This man was able to address many of the unspoken questions Jon had, sharing principles and ways of living that deeply resonated with him. Most importantly, the man provided directions and instructions to reach one of their monasteries in Tibet, an endeavor Jon would undertake. Later, Jon would learn that this man, who became his teacher, was named Zane. When Jon asked Zane about the peculiar TV broadcast, he was informed that Zane had friends in the area who managed to secure support from a Christian church for the broadcast. While there was a reasonable explanation for how the TV broadcast was aired, at least it was transmitted through a physical medium and not a hallucination experienced by Jon. The fact that he received the broadcast just as he was contemplating suicide was undeniably uncanny and synchronous. By the time Jon arrived at the outskirts of Tibet, communist China had already invaded the region. He had to avoid the troops at all costs as he was guided to the monastery. This monastery was situated in a forbidden area, even to Tibetans, and until explorers discovered the region in late 1999, no human other than those belonging to the order had been granted access to this area. So, where exactly is Shambhala located? You can find out by typing the words Shangri-La discovered into Google right now. This search will reveal details about how a group of explorers from National Geographic ventured into a lush subtropical valley hidden amidst the Himalayas, a place that has never been captured even in satellite photos. Shambhala is situated at a mountain spur near a sharp bend of the Tsangpo River in Pamako, Tibet. It is now referred to as the Hidden Falls of Tsangpo. The reason it remained undiscovered for so long is that explorers who attempted to reach it since the early 1900s encountered force fields that weakened their bodies, compelling them to turn back. So how was it finally discovered in 1999? This is where it is time to reveal the tragic story that befell Shambhala. Every May, during Wesak, the order participated in a group meditation, in which initiates entered a deep trance-like state for days. During this deep trance, their soul leaves the body and travel in the astral realm. In 1990, during Wesak, the order experienced a worldwide attack by global elites, utilizing sophisticated high-tech weapons. We know these attackers as the Illuminati/Cabal, but the order called them the Sons of Belial. More on the Sons of Belial later. Everyone physically present at Shambhala during the attack was killed, and the monastery was destroyed. As a result, the force field surrounding the area was disabled, enabling subsequent discoveries. Only a few hundred survivors remained, among whom Jon was one. Due to his advanced level of consciousness compared to the other survivors, he was appointed as the head of the order. This catastrophic event had been predicted by the order long ago, and Zane had informed Jon that he would eventually have to share their teachings with the world after the monastery's destruction. Aside from the loss of life, another significant loss resulting from the destruction was the largest library in the world, which had contained a vast collection of literature from the earliest time periods, including original texts from many religious teachings, such as the Bible in its original handwriting. Incidentally, the writing of the book in 1998 also fulfilled the prophecy given by the sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce, who noted that a Jon Peniel would bring to the world a message about the new spiritual order of things around 1998. Before I delve into their main teachings, here are a few quick notes about the order and the monastery. The order consists of laypersons, novices, elders, and adepts. The adepts are enlightened, meaning they have achieved effective ego death, realized and permanently returned to a state of absolute oneness with God, and are living in harmony with the universe while doing the will of God. They embody unselfish love. Leadership within the order is not determined by seniority but by the adepts recognized as having the highest consciousness. If someone desired a personal teacher, they could request it directly from the intended teacher, and it would typically be an adept. Similar to the tulkus in the Tibetan tradition, enlightened masters who choose to reincarnate are called back to the order before the age of 21, regardless of where they are in the world. Tulkus are considered living Buddhas in the Tibetan tradition. Before their death, they will reveal where they are likely to be reborn, and at the appropriate time, monks will search for the reincarnated child and bring them back to their monastery. These topics about other mysteries of Tibet will be further elaborated in future videos. If you are interested in these concepts, please consider liking and subscribing. Jon, who was called back at the age of 17, was an enlightened master in his previous life. Within Shambhala, most chose to rise before the sun, engage in private morning meditations and yoga, and attend morning meetings where one of the adept monks would often give a talk followed by a group meditation. Each monk was assigned specific work, and the rest of their time was spent based on their individual interests, including reading in the library or participating in practical exercises. Some of the spiritual exercises they practiced are described in the book. These practices could potentially also lead to supernatural abilities, although these abilities should be seen as a natural progression of awakened consciousness rather than end goals. For instance, Jon described witnessing a fellow monk named Ishkari learning to manipulate the elements. Ishkari became so adept at manipulating the element of air that he blew off the roof of a building and other items in the room. Ishkari was eventually asked to leave because he could not stop misusing his superpowers. The basic principles of their teachings are as follows: God is all and includes all. The one encompasses the many and is both within us and outside of us. We are all individual parts of the whole. Suffering arises from people forgetting that all things are interconnected and behaving as separate entities to one another. Therefore, the children practice unselfish love, which is the expression of compassion, kindness and love with no ulterior motives. Being unselfish love in every moment is considered both the most important means and the ultimate outcome of achieving universal consciousness or enlightenment. Now let's delve into the history presented in this book. In the beginning, there was God, who created us, and we are essentially part of Him, existing in a state of pure spirit as angelic beings. In this state, we possess the ability to shift our vibration and manifest anything instantaneously through thought. The beginnings on Earth occurred in two waves when two different groups of spirits manifested themselves into physical bodies. During the first wave, these spirits entered animals and created beings that were partly human and partly animal, such as the Minotaur with a bull's head and a human body, or the Centaur with a human head and the body of a horse. Similarly, many gods from ancient civilizations, like the Egyptian gods with animal heads and human bodies, or vice versa, belong to this first wave. Even our depiction of the devil as a being who is part goat originates from this wave. This event is referred to as the fall of angels mentioned in the Bible. For simplicity, let's refer to these creatures as hum animals. The problem with the first wave materializing in physical form was that the significant decline in consciousness led to near amnesia of our previous divine state. Essentially, we forgot that we are spiritual beings and became trapped in the consciousness of separateness within the physical world. When the second wave witnessed what had happened to the first wave, they decided to embark on a rescue mission to assist the trapped hum animals, despite knowing and acknowledging the risk of facing a similar fate. To aid them, the second wave also materialized into physical form, choosing to model themselves as an ape-like early human form as it allowed for greater control over the physical plane. This does not imply that we were first apes before becoming humans, debunking the concept of the so-called evolutionary missing link that has neither been found or will ever be found. The emergence of the first modern human life on Earth was a result of the second wave instantaneously materializing into physical form, rather than occurring over millions of years. The leader of the second wave is known as Emilius in Atlantean times, Thoth in Egyptian times, Joseph, the son of Jacob, in the Bible, and most recently, Jesus Christ. The manifestation of the second wave beings was more or less successful, and as we experienced the vibrational factors that govern this world, we observed that the numerological symbols for the physical plane, 2 and 5, appeared in various aspects of our manifestation. The two sexes evolved later, each having 5 appendages, 2 legs, 2 arms, and 1 head, along with 5 fingers and toes on the arms and legs, and other corresponding organs. The first modern humans were hermaphrodite. It was only later that these composite beings were divided into their male and female forms. To accomplish the rescue mission, 2 tasks needed to be undertaken. Firstly, methods had to be devised to assist the hum animals in regaining their spiritual consciousness. Secondly, methods had to be developed to help the second wave maintain their connection with the oneness. These methods were codified to become the teachings of the children of the Law of One, from which essentially all religions originated. Emissaries from the order played significant roles in the establishment of religions, or they became great teachers, thinkers, creatives, mystics, alchemists, and magi. Around 500 BC, a branch of the Magi formed communities known as the Essenes. The mission of the Essenes was to lead a spiritually disciplined life to produce offspring progressively attaining higher consciousness, in preparation for the eventual birth of Jesus within their community. Throughout history, the being known as Jesus had taken on approximately 24 incarnations and was regarded as the Grand Master of the Children of the Law of One. He was the first second waver and also the first to find a way to liberate himself from the physical world. Currently, Jesus does not reincarnate in physical form but exists on a vibrational plane, continuing to guide the rescue efforts. The second wave started living their human lives in Atlantis. During this time, people were highly advanced in both spirituality and technology. They possessed an understanding of manipulating vibrations and thoughts, as well as the ability to exert spiritual forces upon physical matter. Cultures that lacked such advancements perceived these abilities as magic and even referred to the beings who possessed them as gods. However, a group of the second wavers became increasingly disconnected from the oneness. The group that managed to maintain their spiritual awareness became the children of the Law of One, while the other group became the sons of Belial. The differences between them became evident in their perspectives on what should be done with the hum animals. The hum animals were easily influenced and controlled by the mental powers of the second wavers. The Belialians sought to use them as slaves, whereas the children aimed to help restore their higher state of consciousness. While the children achieved part of their goal, as the hum animals were freed from their association with animals after the destruction of Atlantis, it is evident that many reincarnated first wavers still exhibit animalistic traits despite inhabiting human bodies. The reincarnated Belialians continue to harbor the desire to enslave all of humanity, setting the stage for the ongoing conflict between the children and the Belialians, an ancient struggle that persists to this day, with the Belialians attempting to establish a one-world government to exert control over everyone. Presently, there are essentially 5 groups of people in the world: the children, Belialians, first and second wavers who have lost touch with their spirituality, and the enlightened. Over time, the Belialians have become associated with evil and are often intuitively perceived as reptile-like. They are typically born into wealthy and influential families with a Belialian lineage, and their families train them to perpetuate their traditions, many of which revolve around dark magic, power, and the enslavement of others. Both the children and the Belialians had to find ways to generate power, which created a significant division of opinion between them. The Belialians employed methods that were highly destructive to the earth. One particularly severe example was the drilling of enormous holes in the earth's crust using concentrated lasers to extract power from the molten levels below. The remnants of this can still be observed on Earth today, such as the Blue Hole in Belize. These activities caused substantial instability and seismic events that eventually led to the sinking of Atlantis. In contrast, the children adopted a more conservative approach and utilized crystals to tap into the existing power present in the Earth's biofield. They employed this power for various purposes, ranging from healing to providing energy for buildings and vehicles. Recognizing the signs of Atlantis' impending collapse, Grand Master Thoth led a group to the land of Kem, which is modern-day Egypt, to continue the work of evolving the hum animals. In Kem, Thoth constructed the Great Pyramid for two primary purposes. Firstly, it served as a power plant since the original pyramid had a layered capstone made of copper and quartz crystal from Atlantis. Secondly, it served as the final site for the initiation of the Children of the Law of One. The initiation process involved giving each initiate an elixir, followed by placing them in the sarcophagus and transporting them to the king's chamber. Through a combination of the elixir, death rituals, their previous training, and the energy of the pyramid, the initiates would experience astral travel. Guides from the spiritual realm would meet them in the astral plane to impart teachings on merging back into universal consciousness. The hall of the pyramid was once adorned with painted tablets depicting the stages of spiritual development and initiation. Due to concerns that written words could be corrupted by the belly aliens, Master Thoth encoded the keys of knowledge of the spiritual path to God, represented by the images on the painted tablets, into cards, which would later become the major arcana of the tarot. To safeguard these keys, he added additional cards to the major arcanum, creating a comprehensive divination system. Thoth then taught this method to those leaving Egypt, who eventually became known as the Wandering Egyptians, Egyptians, or the Gypsies. To free the consciousness of the hum animals, other pyramids and temples were employed, utilizing specifically tuned crystals for healing purposes. The Great Pyramid itself was constructed using advanced technology aboard an airship. Vibratory forces were used to alter molecular density, allowing the stones to float in the air. After the construction of the Great Pyramid, it harvested energy by collecting it from the Earth's biofield and focusing it onto what is now known as the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark served as a capacitor, storing and releasing energy in regular bursts of a specific frequency that would be transmuted by the crystal capstone to power all the buildings and vehicles in the vicinity, as each of them had receiver crystals tuned to the pyramid. This represented true, wireless, transmission of power. Due to the nature of the Ark as a capacitor and its release of energy in bursts, anyone who happened to touch it or get too close risked being zapped and killed. This explains why, in the Bible, priests were instructed to wear special attire to protect themselves from the potentially lethal electrical discharge. Only individuals who had achieved a certain level of spiritual development, allowing their bodies to handle the frequency of the electricity, could touch the Ark without such precautions. During the Exodus, when Moses freed the Jews from Egypt, they seized the Ark from the Great Pyramid, which was the primary reason why the pursuing pharaoh sought to reclaim it. The Ark is currently located in St. Mary of Zion in Aksum, Ethiopia. In the future, I will create a separate video to provide more details on the Ark in Ethiopia. After completing their work in Egypt, Master Thoth buried his airship and records of their history in the Hall of Records, which Edgar Cayce correctly stated to be located under the right front forepaw of the Sphinx. Although Edgar Cayce predicted that the contents of the Hall of Records would be revealed to the world, currently, no mainstream information about it has surfaced. Therefore, Jon believes that his book, and by extension, I believe this video, is it. The book and this video aim to reveal the true history of our world, as no other information will be allowed to come forth due to the opposition of those in power. After leaving Egypt, Master Thoth and his followers traveled to various lands, including Tibet, Oz, Europe, and the remnants of the Mu continent, parts of the Americas and Asia, establishing refuge centers. If there are ever at least 1,000 children of the Law of One present, they would generate enough light to counterbalance the darkness. A specific group of the children, including Thoth himself, eventually ended up in Tibet, becoming the ancestral founders of the Tibetan monastery.